So hey guys, it's Bill back again with another edition of Filmhook. Thanks for checking it out. Today I want to talk to you about a movie which I'm going to recommend to you. It is available on DVD at the moment. It's a movie from a couple of years ago, and it's a movie which I just absolutely love, and I try to recommend to as many people as possible. I do gush about it a lot, and I annoy the hell out of people, when I do start to mention it. It's been in my top 5 favourite movies of all time for, I suppose, the last 8 or 9 years, and it's certainly been in my top 3 for the last 3 or 4 years, so it's kind of worked its way up into my affections, having seen it sort of maybe kind of 10 or 11 times. It's a movie a lot of you guys won't have heard of, but hopefully maybe if you've done a search on YouTube and you've come across this, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you'll know how great this movie is. So spread the word. This is an awesome film. The film I'm talking about it's a film called My Sassy Girl, or Yupki Girl, which translates from South Korean as That Bizarre Girl. This is a movie from 2001, and it's directed by Kwak Jae-yong. It was a movie I found out about. I've a huge interest in Asian cinema, so I love movies from Hong Kong, Japan, China, Thailand, Taiwan, and South Korea in particular. Over the last couple of years, their film industry has really exploded. There have been a lot of remakes of Asian films in the UK or in the US, and one of the films which was remade was My Sassy Girl. Now I'm not going to talk about the remake because that's appalling. This movie is absolutely amazing. The movie stars Tae-hyun as Gyun-woo. And Gyun-woo is he's a bit of a slacker. He's a mechanical engineering student. He's a really clever guy, but he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and he's a total slacker. And he's kind of looking for love, or rather he isn't, but he's kind of hoping to that it'll find him. And he meets this girl who's played by Ji-hyun, who we don't actually ever get to know what her character is called during the film. The film itself runs to about 123 minutes. It's quite long for a romantic comedy, but in all honesty, to describe this as a romantic comedy is actually doing it a disservice, because there's a lot of undercurrents with this. There's a lot of, I suppose, socially very aware musings on the state of relationships between guys and girls, which I'm not a big fan normally of romantic comedies. It's not a genre I particularly subscribe to, but this movie in particular, I watched it and it just stayed with me. The movie itself, it came out in 2001, and it's really synonymous with pop culture in South Korea. The film came about by, it was a guy called Kim Ho-sik, chronicled, I suppose, his meeting and his relationship with this girl who he never named on the internet, and he created an online book, and from this grew the movie. Now, when this movie originally came out in South Korea, you had a lot of girls in particular. This is anecdotally, I've heard this, that like a lot of girls, started acting like the nameless girl in this movie, which is actually really funny to think that anybody would put up with that. But we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. So getting on with what the film is about. The film, as I said, is a romantic comedy, but I want you to bear with me on this, because I know some people will be like, romantic comedy, I'm checking out, don't want to know about it. And that's, unfortunately, you're going to miss out on such an amazing film, and a film which I adore. The film centres around, I suppose, Gyun-woo's character meeting the nameless girl, and he gets a phone call from his aunt one night at the start of the film, or from his mother, and he's told to go and meet his aunt because his aunt wants him to meet this girl. On his way, he's in the train station, he's had a couple of drinks, and he sees this girl perching really precariously on the steps where the train is pulling in. He pulls her back, and she kind of passes out pretty much shortly after. But on the train, he's in the same cabin as her, and a couple of really hilarious things ensue. She gets sick on this old man, and the old man assumes that they're together and makes Gyun-woo take responsibility for her. So he takes her to a hotel, and I suppose he kind of starts questioning, why the girl is drunk. It kind of disgusts him to a large extent, but he can't help but being a little bit intrigued. The next day she calls him, she wants to meet him, and she wants to know what happened. And from this then the relationship kind of develops at a very slow level. She's very high maintenance, and her mood goes from sort of extremes of joy to real slapstick kind of violence, which he perpetrates against the really poor Gyun-woo. The movie is hilarious. It is so funny, and to sort of not watch this movie because it's from South Korea or because it's subtitled, which it is, is an absolute crime against movies if you haven't seen this film. It is one of my top films of all time. The movie itself is divided into three parts. You've got part one where they sort of meet and they go through the, I suppose, the mechanics of, you know, the early stages of a relationship and meeting, and sort of the comedy involved with, you know, misunderstandings. To part two where, you know, he meets her parents and they're quite disapproving of him, so they break up. And into this, I think it's a segment that's called Overtime, which is sort of like the epilogue where everything comes back together and sort of, you know, we're given I have to say, a very richly satisfying conclusion to the movie. The movie is, I suppose, kind of, it's one of those movies which there's a consistent, I suppose, kind of, you know, comedic element to it. While, you know, you're interested to see how Gyun-woo and this girl are going to get on and how will their relationship survive because of, let's say, her behaviour, or in some cases his behaviour, you know, it's really interesting to see how that plays out. It's really well acted. The characters themselves are incredibly lovable, which is a huge testament as well, I have to say, to both Tae-hyun and Ji-hyun. They're not related, but it's a huge testament to how they portray the characters, because Ji-hyun's character, the nameless girl, in particular, is quite violent and she's quite demanding of Gyun-woo. So, you know, for her to remain likable, you know, is quite a difficult, it's quite a difficult task. Actually, like I saw Saving Mr. Banks recently, and the same kind of thing with Emma Thompson, whereby she's really prickly and sort of difficult to get on with, but there's something about which you identify with and which you sort of let her get away with, because you're saying there's more to her than that, there's a bigger story there. And as this movie moves along, you find out, you know, the reason why the girl is so difficult, you know, and so sort of demanding of Gyun-woo, and the things she's looking for, and he finds out as well. And it's sort of in sort of the overtime section, or the third part of the movie, all of this comes back together. So he realizes, you know, why she's been so difficult and what his, I suppose, kind of his role in her life for the past period of time really has meant to her. And as I said, you know, the ending is richly satisfying. The movie was the highest grossing Korean comedy of all time, and I think it's still kind of in the top 4 or top 5 Korean movies of all time in terms of, you know, highest grossing box office. One of the things, I suppose, in recent years we've had a lot of remakes of Asian films, as I said at the start of the video. You know, I mean, Martin Scorsese's The Departed won Oscars all over the place there a couple of years ago. People were saying how fantastic it was and it was great. And it kind of annoyed me that that happened. And for one reason it annoyed me, because, you know, I thought Martin Scorsese, who's directed Raging Bull and Taxi Driver and Goodfellas and Casino, you know, then gets, you know, the Oscar for a film which is effectively a remake with a great cast, and it's a great film, but it's effectively a remake of Infernal Affairs, the early 2000s movie starring Andy Lau and Tony Leung from Hong Kong. But I'm kind of digressing, I'm getting away from the point. I would love you guys to check out my Sassy Girl if you get a chance. It's available quite cheaply. You can get it on amazon.co.uk, amazon.com. You can order it in from, there's a website I use, yesasia.com, and I think they're sort of on holidays for the moment now. They do tend to shut down around Christmas, but they're a great website. I do love Asian movies, and not just, you know, the kung fu chop-socky movies, but I love the romantic comedies, I love the thrillers, I love the gang crime movies too. And I'll be reviewing those periodically, you know, in conjunction with other movies I'm doing. One of the things I want to introduce you guys to, and not being sort of presumptuous about it, is the fact that there's a huge range of movies out there which, you know, are available, you know, for you to watch and for you to enjoy. And hopefully I'm going to be able to introduce you to 1 or 2 films which are maybe a little more obscure to Western viewers, but which are really, really worth your time. So ultimately, My Sassy Girl, for me, is a 10 out of 10 movie. It couldn't be better. I've seen it 10 or 11 times. I will be watching it again another 10 or 20 times. I would recommend you guys check it out. Buy it, download it, whatever you need to do. It's in my top 3. So please do see Yupki Girl or My Sassy Girl. Okay, so it's Bill with another edition of Filmhook, and I'll check you guys out in the next video. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and subscribe below if you like the video. Okay, take care. Bye.